Erev Tov, Mayanim. Hey, how's my Hebrew? Getting better and better every day. I hope one day I'll come here and do a presentation in Hebrew. But anyways, in the meantime, let's talk about the future of teamwork. How the latest trends, how this ever-changing world is affecting teams all over the world. Actually, I forgot my pointer, which I need to connect. You see, we all set up this Mac and IBM very quickly, and I forgot the basics. Now, let's see if I can connect this and make it work without spoiling the whole thing. Great. I think it looks good. Right, now, future of teamwork. Why is it important? Why should you care? Let's picture this. Your service, your product, it breaks, right? So your customers start to see 404 messages, and they start to send those very nice Twitter messages to you. And of course, opening up tickets, and your support teams are drowning in tickets, your dev teams are trying to put out the fire, and while one, the support team, is drowning in tickets, and the other one, the dev teams, are trying to put out the fire, this happens. There's a rift. There is a gap between the teams. They are no longer working together to solve the issue. That's what, in the US especially, they call it working silos. Totally separate, right? Because actually, what happens is then there's this rift in teams where all the teams become technical and non-technical, and then they start subdividing itself in more and more teams, and at the end of the day, it becomes a them and us kind of game, right? One pointing the fingers to the other and not working together. What we ideally want to achieve is this. It might be a bit utopical, but we want to achieve a all teams kind of situation. Right, that's what we're going to talk about today, the future of teamwork, why it's important, how in Atlassian we are handling these issues, how we are facing these challenges of the ever-changing world, and how our teams are preparing for the future. The future is coming, not only the winter. Let me introduce myself. My name is Vlad Cavalcanti, and I'm a channel manager at Atlassian for those who don't know me. Let me explain these two things because they're quite complex. First, my name. People ask me if I come from Romania, Russia, because of Vlad, Vladimir, or if I'm Italian, Cavalcanti. Yeah, it makes sense. The names are from that origin, but I'm not either Russian or Brazilian. So I am Brazilian. I spoiled my own game here. Right, yeah, I was born in Brazil. Yeah, you wouldn't guess, right? By my name, you wouldn't guess at all. So I live in Holland. I've been living there for 24 years, and I've been working with Atlassian for 7 years as a channel manager. Now, what does a channel manager do? Channel manager at Atlassian is a very interesting and exciting role because I'm responsible for the partners like Matrix DevOps, our platinum partner here in Israel, and I'm also responsible for partners across 30-plus countries, so I take care of about 100 partners across all these countries. It's a very, very exciting role because I learn a lot. I learn a lot about team cultures, about the differences between the teams. Today I'm here with you, next week I might be in Italy, and then in Spain, and then in Turkey, and it's a different way of doing business, different languages, different cultures. We learn a lot about that. We bridge these cultures between the partners and Atlassian. Now, that was a very long explanation for what I do at Atlassian. There is a reason for that we'll see later on. So for those of you who know Atlassian, it's not anything new. It's all about teams. We believe that there is always a team behind any human achievement, and we want to unleash the potential of every team. Now, teams across all the organizations. Atlassian has grown a lot. When I joined Atlassian, we were 450 people. We are now over 3,000 and growing. We started as a company providing solutions for software developers, and now we are providing solutions to all teams. With the most recent acquisition of Atlassian, AgileCraft, which became JIRA-XMEN, we are also now offering the alignment of the vision of all the teams with the strategies of the companies. So, if you will, it's a solution for the teams of teams, right? Teams in every organization, organizations that need to be very competitive in order to survive, or organizations that need to reinvent themselves in order to stay afloat. And not to mention those who are at the cusp of the innovation and are using Atlassian to become even more dynamic. But we know at Atlassian that teamwork is very, very hard. It's not something easy. It's like shooting at a moving target. The technology is evolving very, very fast, and we need to be prepared for that. Because we see how the world changed until now, right? They say that we are in the middle of the fourth industry revolution, the technological revolution. And that's where most of the talks, when we talk about this, they talk about two visions. First, the utopians that say that we will not need to work so much and so long hours in the future because technology will help us. I don't know about you, but my work week is not getting any shorter because of technology. And then there are the dystopians who say that we'll all be replaced by algorithms. We'll all lose our jobs because technology will take over it. So they say that if you can explain in one single sentence what you do, what your role, what your profession is, you will be replaced by an algorithm. That's why it took so long to explain what I do at Atlassian. Right, now, and we know that we don't know exactly what will happen in the future, but what we do know is there are trends happening right now. Trends that are affecting the way the teams are working. Like trends like competition and disruption. Think about Uber disrupting the taxi world. Think about Airbnb in the hotel world. But not only that, the faster pace of innovation, as we mentioned before, it's affecting the way we work tremendously. And not to mention also the customer expectations that you always should be on. If your website is not working, or if it's delaying, people will go elsewhere. We know that. Distributed teams. We no longer have teams just in one room in our organization. We have teams all over the world in some cases, and we have to know how to face that and how to collaborate better. Partnerships. We can no longer survive alone. We need to partner, and sometimes even with our competitors. That happened with Atlassian. We had a chat solution called Stride. We're doing very well there, but we saw that we could not compete with the leader in the market. And what did we do? We stopped Stride, and we signed up a partnership agreement with Slack, providing a much better solution to our customers and to ourselves. And last but not least, war for talent. Everyone is looking for A players. No one is looking for B or C players anymore. Everyone wants the best, and it's not an easy thing. Now, when we talk to customers about these trends, about these challenges and everything, there are many, many of them. I just quoted some, but there are 3 of them that come up very, very often, almost always, when we talk to our customers. The first one is the issue of growing, then the innovation and disruption, and then finally the outputs. If we look at them, starting with growing, it's an interesting discussion. Shall we grow or shall we scale? Some companies that we see are just growing, adding more people. They have a problem, and they hire more people and more people. Well, that does not seem like a solution, right? You're just adding more and more to the same problem. Should you not instead scale? So at Atlassian, what we try and do is exactly that. Discuss this and analyze when do we need to grow and when we need to scale. The partnership model of Atlassian is exactly the reason why we wanted to scale. We could, of course, open offices all over the world, hire local people. That would be growth. But instead, we preferred a faster scale, working with the partners to deliver what we don't do, like services, professional services, consultancy, training, bespoke development, whatever the customers need to use our tools. We also scaled inside, using JIRA Service Desk to scale our departments like legal, like HR, marketing, or even ourselves when we send each other kudos and benefits. So using our own tools to scale inside. Because what's the difference between growth and scaling? It's actually a very short word. Why? Simon Sinek wrote this book quite some years ago, and we're very fond of this book at Atlassian, starting with a why. So much so that we created inside our Atlassian Playbook, that I will discuss in more detail later on, a project poster that we use whenever we are in this dilemma of growing, of scaling, of introducing more people, of doing something that will affect our jobs and our projects. Start with a why. So then it brings us to the innovation and disruption. That's a very interesting thing. Are you, in your companies now, can you think about that being disrupted, or are you a disruptor? We always think about that because it's important. And there is a nice story about this innovation and disruption, which is Blockbuster and Netflix. I don't know if you know Blockbuster, but I was a very good customer of theirs, renting videos. And they were very strong, they were very dominant. And in fact, we were reading about that in the year 2000. They reported revenues of 800 million in late fees. Late fees from people like myself that delivered or returned the videotape too late and had to pay a fine. 800 million that they made without doing anything. Is there anybody here working for a company that makes 800 million for doing nothing? Probably not. Right. Well, then we know what happened, right? Blockbuster went bankrupt and Netflix grew up. Now, what is also interesting is that in the same year 2000, that they reported those 800 million, they could have bought Netflix for 50 million. 50 million only, and yet they didn't. So, things changed, of course. Netflix is now very dominant in the streaming, and they reported over $16 billion in revenue, over 139 million subscribers, and growing. But this is not the best part of the story. The best part of the story is that Blockbuster had a streaming project of their own called Total Access, and they canned it. They archived it. Do you know why they archived it? Because they didn't want to miss the 800 million in late fees. So they disrupted themselves from inside, but they didn't follow that. So again, going back to Atlassian, what we do with our playbook, we have some practices that we call disruptive brainstorming, in which we challenge ourselves, we put people that usually, you know that colleague that you don't like working with because he or she is always challenging you and questioning and saying that what you're doing is not good. That's exactly the kind of people you need in these sessions, because then you can diverge and converge, and then diverge again, and then converge again. It's a practice that helps us get out of our common thinking and disrupt ourselves. And then there is innovation. Innovation is very important, and we believe that innovation is for everybody, not only for a set of people and everybody. We try to instill that in our teams so that everybody can have a say in innovation. How do we do that? It's not an easy thing. Well, basically we give people time and space. So every quarter we organize what we call Ship It. Some sessions in which we invite everybody within an organization to bring up some projects, whatever it is. Could be a technical, non-technical, could be just changing the lamps inside the office, whatever it is that disrupts again. And then the last one is outputs. Outputs and outcomes. That's something that we discuss a lot, because outputs, it's what we live with, right? We always need to produce more and more. We need to release, I don't know how many versions of the software every month or every quarter. We need to sell. We need to produce. That's the output, the short objectives. But shouldn't we also consider the outcomes? I mean, the output could be how many versions of the software we shipped this quarter. The outcome, the question would be, what was the impact of those features to our customers? What was their feedback? Did we really hit the nail? Did we really do something that they needed for? That's something that we discuss. So we removed ourselves from those traditional KPIs, and we embraced a very common trend in the industry, which is the OKRs, the Objective Key Results. It started only with the management of the company, but now everybody is aligned to the Objective Key Results. And of course, we use Confluence to share our OKRs with the teams so that we can learn from each other, learn from the mistakes, learn from the successes. So all these trends affecting us, how do we tackle them? What is the best way to face them? We believe that it's great teamwork, and great teamwork is a result of this very simple formula. Right people, right products, and right practices. I will not talk about products today. There will be plenty of sessions talking about our products from the experts today. I will focus on people and practices only. So the first one, talking about people. We embraced also a study from Google that analyzed why some teams were very productive and some others weren't. And they came up with these findings that the very best performing teams worked within a environmentally safe place. So a psychological safety kind of thing, where they had the same mindset, they had a very good structure, they had a lot of support from the company, and they knew where they were going. They knew exactly what they had to do. I worked for a company in Spain, a startup, that was exactly the opposite of all that. It was very traditional, in which a boss was controlling everything, and we didn't feel safe at all. So I thought, after all those years of experience that I had, that I was worth nothing. And that's not good. So we need to create this psychological safety for our teams, because that creates accountability, meaning that everybody feels responsible for what they do. And rather than having this pyramid structure, we work then in smaller teams that connect to other teams and so on, and achieving a much better result in terms of creativity, innovation, collaboration, and happiness. Now, and then the practices. It's all about the Team Playbook, as I promised I was going to mention that. Team Playbook was created a few years ago inside Atlassian for ourselves, and basically what it was a set of attributes in which we could monitor the health of our team. Is it okay, green? Is it not so okay, yellow? Or is it really bad, red? So, for example, in a leadership health monitor kind of thing, you can find things like decision-making. Well, this is not working well. Then we run practices, many practices that are available out there that we use. So let me give you a very short example of a case study inside Atlassian where we used Playbook to change something. That's a case study that happened in 2014 during our summit in San Francisco. We announced a new feature for Confluence, collaborative editing. That was 2014. Collaborative editing was launched only in 2016. It took us 2 years. Why? Well, we ran the health monitor, and we found out that there was no clear owner. We didn't know who the stakeholders were. We didn't understand exactly what we needed to achieve. So that was the diagnostic. What was the treatment? The treatment was the plays. We ran some plays, lots of them. I'll show you 3. Demo Trust. Demo Trust is basically showing a complete different team what you're doing and asking them for feedback. As simple as that, but very effective. Then we ran a DAISY, which is decisions, approvers, contributors, and influencers. Basically assigning a role to everybody. Who's doing what? Right? This morning I was on a call with a team, and we are preparing for ship it, we're organizing it, and we're running a DAISY. Who's doing what? As simple as that, very quickly and very effective. And then there is another practice called pre-mortem. And some people ask me, but is it not a post-mortem? No, it is a pre-mortem. You show the project, the features, whatever you're doing before it is launched, so as to see if it works. Some very surprising results over there. Now, the outcome was that finally it was released, and the team, most important, the team was re-energized. We now knew what to do. The north, the direction was clear. The stakeholders were clear. We had a lot of say in the project, and we created even more small features inside that feature. So the good thing about the Team Playbook is that it's not only internal for us, but also external. So I invite you to go and visit this website, take a look at it, because it may or may not resonate for you. You may have to adapt it, but they are very, very interesting and challenging practices that will help your teams be more collaborative, more innovative, and happier. All right, we're talking about the future, and what will happen in the next 20 years? Well, we don't know, right? Maybe we'll be driving flying cars or anything of the matter, but we don't know. Maybe the utopians will have their say and we will be working less hours. Maybe the dystopians will win and we'll all be jobless. We really don't know. But I don't think any of them are right, because things can change and we can change that. But the most important thing is to be aware of those trends that we discussed about. Growth or scaling. Are you a disruptor, or are you being disrupted? And shall we focus only on the outputs on a daily basis, or can we also think about the outcomes on a longer term? How do we get there? Well, it's all about you. You as an individual, you can contribute to that, and influence on your teams. That's what we try to do at Atlassian. Really think about what we can do in order to improve that. But before that, we need to pay attention to a couple of things, like unlearning. Learning new stuff is very, very hard, but unlearning is even harder. And we need to do that because the world is changing, as we saw that. Another thing for you to take home with from this short talk is innovation for everybody, not just for a team of people. And do we want to stick to the formal, or can we be informal as well? Are we structured and stifle in our organization, or can we be more diverse, more creative, more daring in the way we work? And whatever you do, please don't copy Atlassian or any of the other companies that look at, but just be inspired. As I said in the beginning, if we can inspire you to have a few ideas to take home and then adapt it to your teams, that will be great. And as a very last slide, I just want to tell you an anecdote that happened to me when I joined Atlassian back 7 years ago. I joined Atlassian, and my manager, her name was Bettina, she came to me and gave me this card. And I was like looking very silly at it, and what do I need to do with this? And she said, I want you to take risks. I want you to experiment, to make mistakes, innovate, whatever. And if you ever get into trouble, bring this card back to me and I'll release you from jail. I was like, okay. I needed 2 more of those cards after that one that she gave me. But it was a great ride. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. I would like now to invite my colleague from Atlassian, from Ops Genie, our incident management solution that it was part of an acquisition, very recent, and I think you will love what he's going to tell you. Thank you very much.